Manel will talk about us. Will talk to us about the need to influence the future of AI and how to experiment with AI for collaboration. So,
Thank you,
Manel, you
Miriam.
want?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. Can you see this?
Still loading now. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be talking mainly from a framing of values, right? So it's very opinionated. It's about my opinion and my values. So please take that with a pinch of salt. And to actually illustrate what I mean by my values, I like to quote Elizabeth Sawin on this, which is it's a simplification, right? But it serves the purpose, which is that there are two strong and opposed patterns in the human world right now, which are partnership versus domination, right? As in that, and she said also that being strategic means to try to strengthen the mindset, the pattern that you feel yourself comfortable in, and disrupt the other, right? And I think this struggle is something that I perceive to be true, and I place myself in the partnership paradigm very much. And I fear that what's happening with AI is taking us deeper into the domination paradigm, so to speak. Right? This is a big simplification, but I think when I speak partnership, I think we sort of everything I'm going to say from now on see it from that lens. So big tech has actually broken many things, right? The whole thing about move fast and break things, they have actually broken things and they haven't been fixed at all. If anything, they're getting worse. I've got a list here of, some of the usual, the productivity trap, right? Everything we have, new technology is to in theory, we're supposed to free time, but no, we just produce more, right? Platform economy, and extractive practices, winner takes all, inequality, accumulation of wealth, making big tech is making surveillance really easy. We are living, and I think in my group, someone mentioned this. We are living in a data wild west that we haven't adjusted to this, and also we are suffering polarizing and maximizing algorithms. And so those are some of the things that from the partnership paradigm I think are broken. And then there is a bright side, like the web. The web is great, right? The internet is great. And we have more access to people, we have more access to knowledge and wisdom. And look, we're here having great conversations and I'm sitting in the house, right? So that's pretty amazing. And it allows us to collaborate at very large scale and very flexibly. And this is like true human characteristic, right? Large scale collaboration that is flexible. We've been able to then maybe more specific about my topic of interest, right? So we scaling up, we're better at making communities and networks and decentralized governance and so on. Thanks to tech, it is empowering this. Right? So there is the two sides of the coin. So talking about those two sides of the coin, looking at AI, my question is, what is socially beneficial AI? Right? So that's the big question. And there is a big debate going on right now about the principles. And it's not, the people are still out. So there's no conclusion on what are the right principles. And I'm writing here some of the principles that are maybe more established: beneficence or non-maleficence, autonomy, justice, explicability, and so on, right? That debate is ongoing and is right that this is happening, right? And we should have more conversations about this. But the point that I'm going to try to make here, or the way I approach this question about what is socially beneficial AI, my way forward is, in addition to having these conversations, is experimenting. Is basically, or like Robbie was saying, get our hands dirty. Experiment with it. I'm experimenting with it, and with the objective that I will be familiarized with this technology, and it will increase my agency, right? My capacity to influence the paths that this AI thing is going to take us into. Because AI is not really a technological issue, it's a social issue, right? So agency is very important. And obviously, right. So what does this mean, right? So how do I apply this to myself? And so 4 points. One is the best way to weigh in is to use AI, experiment with it, build AI systems and see what works, right? Then continue talking about it, but also with what I'm going to be learning with the experimentation. And three, moving on to also experiment with open source AI models, right? And systems. This is, I say ideally, because it's easier to start playing with the big models, right? The big proprietary models, but there is thousands of LLMs that are produced that are more transparent, less biased, lightweight, nicer models, in fact, that we can use. And if we know what they are and we see what's behind them, we can make a wiser choice of what kind of systems we build, right? But open source models require a bit more technical knowledge, but that comes with experimentation anyway. And I've learned about this in the last few months, so it's actually not that difficult. And finally, I hope that it will inspire others, right? So we can, emergence, meaning we do things and we share and then we combine and we inspire others, and hopefully together we can draw a different future. Speaking of open source, and I have to mention Hugging Face. It's a website. It's the repository for open source models and open source systems. And the mission is spotless in my view. And if you're interested in open source LLMs or open source AI, here you can find a lot of content that is extremely useful. Right. So if you agree with me that experimenting is a good thing, right, to gain familiarity and to gain agency, the next question is, okay, so what kind of experiments, right? We could do a million things. What do you think is, what do I think is the right experiments to carry out? So in my case, that I'm looking at collaboration, network systems, ways of organizing, and so on, I'm not interested in personal productivity, in, I don't know, creating content automatically or automating my business or anything like that. I think that if anything, that reinforces the domination paradigm. But again, that's my opinion. In the breakouts, we can talk about it. But what I believe is that we should experiment with AI systems that will help us with our collaboration. We how collaborate as humans. Now, I'm going to share some examples of the kind of projects or the kind of initiatives that I think are worth it, and what I mean by increasing or improving collaboration, right? I am drawn to initiatives that try to address systemic challenges, and looking around the room, I think it's the same for all of you. I think we are a bit in family right now. So I'll give some examples just so you can visualize what I'm thinking. Multitudes Foundation, it's a foundation, I think, based in France, who is looking into new ways of doing politics and from the ground up, right? So they have, and this thing I'm going to say right now, I made it up, but they have started two movements, both in Germany and in France, to connect with these local movements and to make sure that the unrepresented groups of society have more agency in politics, right? Like big P politics kind of thing. So for me, this is a very complex challenge, and it requires a high degrees of collaboration, or a high quality of collaboration. Another one, maybe more technical, is the Circular Buildings Coalition. So this organization works on bringing circularity or circular economy into the built environment. Right? So how do we design, build, and decommission buildings in a way that have a lower environmental impact? This is also a complex problem that requires the mobilization and alignment of many different stakeholders. Something more simple, a company and this is a real company, that they provide professional services, and they have more and more customers who have multi-country requirements, right? So they want to be serviced in every country. This company said, okay, we can either do the traditional thing, we can buy offices in other countries or open new offices and become a multinational, or we can connect with like-minded businesses, create a network with strong bonds of trust and reputation, and we collaborate to deliver those multi-contract multi-country contracts, right? So a different kind of mindset of partnership. And the last example is the Mayor of London. One of their initiatives is to end rough sleeping in London by 2030. And that also requires many different stakeholders to work together, right? Bellingcat, I mean, I have too many examples. I don't want to, we are not doing well with time. But anyway, so these examples I just shared is just to explain that for me, those are good things in terms of like the partnership paradigm, and increasing levels of collaboration help with those challenges, no, or those initiatives. So back to my original point, if we're going to experiment with AI, in my case, I want to do it in a way that hopefully will help with the collaboration for this kind of project. So I'm going to share with you probably one of the simplest, easiest to do experiments, which is to create a chatbot, and an interface to chat with an LLM that can help with teaming, right? And I choose teaming because it's a smaller scale, right? So it's only a team as opposed to these big projects I shared before. So that makes it easier. But then almost all complex projects involve a team of people, right? So if we improve how we team or how we come together to form teams, we will be better at doing those bigger projects, right? So that's also a reason to do an experiment with teaming. So better teaming makes things easier, and why not? You know, it's something that we do all the time, and you know, like I mean, many of you happens like that. We are part of teams, and we at the same time we are part of different teams, right? So we have different identities, but then different cultures in the different teams, different agreements, different roles, different way of talking, right? Different protocols. So all these things can be a bit difficult. There is a book by Amy Edmondson that probably most of you already know called Teaming. It's maybe a decade old, but still super relevant. That talks more about this, right? That's why they use the verb teaming as opposed to teams, because it's more organic nowadays. But that's just an excuse. It's just to experiment, right? To experiment. And there are many elements that are relevant to teaming. And I'm not going to go into detail because this is about AI experimentation. It's not about teamings and organizations. But this is what it looks like. A chatbot is like ChatGPT or any other chatbot out there. We could create our own, right? And actually, it's quite easy to create your own chatbot. And I'm going to share with you now how to go about this. A chatbot, in this case, imagine you have a team and you use a Slack, for example. You could have a Slack channel, or if you use Telegram, you could have a Telegram group, or you could have a web interface. There are many ways of doing this, but a chatbot could help the team with keeping up with objectives, evolving scope, make onboarding easy, because onboarding in modern teams is more traumatic than in the past. For example, for the creation and curation of the team's handbook or collective learning, there are many things that we could create a chatbot for. And then the idea is that we create a chatbot that has the relevant knowledge, the knowledge that is relevant for our team, right? So, for example, I'm thinking of my team in GT, in Greater Than. For example, the team agreements is an important part of what means forming a team. Purpose, objectives, values, roles and responsibilities, or different initiatives, or different dynamic roles. Who are the stakeholders who are maybe not part of the team but are affected by what the team does? What kind of tools and platforms do we use? How do we use them? Etc. Right? There are many things that are relevant for teams. And here it is. This is the basic. So that chatbot, behind the chatbot, this is what it looks like. This is the basic architecture. This is the most basic building block that creates an AI system, right? An AI system, it's a system that includes LLMs inside its system, and it's just part of the flow, right? It's one other element. Obviously, it's a very important one. As you can see here, the LLM is at the heart of this system. It has the input and the output, like that with the chat, the user asking questions, and then the output. And then this LLM is equipped with a retrieval memory or a retrieval knowledge, if you like. It has access to tools if you want so, and it has access to memory, right? It has some memory, so it remembers the conversations it's having with you. But the most important element here for this chatbot, for team relevant knowledge, is the retrieval. The technical term is RAG, R-A-G, Retrieval Augmented Generation. What this is the team creates a data set of whatever the team thinks is relevant, right? So it could be the handbook, it could be a number of things. We say, okay, this is the data set that we think it's important and the LLM should have access to. The RAG, what it does is transforms that data into vectors, just because LLMs work with vectors, right? So it just is digested so it can be easily accessible by the LLM, right? And it stays only with the LLM, with your tool, right? It doesn't go into the model. The model stays the same. It just has another layer of knowledge. And additionally, you can connect it to tools if you want it, but I'll talk about this in a minute. Right, so the retrieval is the retrieval augmented generation that the team creates that creates this additional layer of relevant knowledge. Then tools, you can connect it to whatever tools the team uses. So you could also create this chatbot so it can also do certain tasks for you when you ask it to do so. Like, for example, like, okay, so can I have a meeting with Tomomi, Line, and Alejandro, right? The three people I can see in my screen. And then the chatbot would try to organize it for us, right? But that's another rabbit hole that I'm going to avoid, but you could do that. And then it has memory. If the team decides we could provide memory to the LLM, we could also not do it. But it could be useful to see, okay, so after 1 year, we can look and say, what are the kind of questions that people were asking? How can we improve the RAG, right? So the idea is that you keep improving that layer of knowledge. Yeah, this is the most detail I'm going to get. I thought it was necessary to go a bit in detail to show you what an AI system looks like and to dispel some fears about it. It's actually quite simple. So there is, on the left here, there is the query that it goes into the system, and the system or the intelligence of the system already decides where it should go, right? Which path of data or actions it should go to. So for example, it could say, well, this kind of question should access the RAG. So it goes into another LLM action that then does vector search inside the RAG that you created. That could be one thing. Another thing, if the question is a bit more generic and it's not relevant for the team, the agent could say, well, let's do a search on the internet or whatever list of websites we provided. Or it could be that it's an action thing that it will search if you wanted to, if you're connected to, through your communications platforms like your Slack or your email or whatever actions you wanted to do. So there is a bit of routing.
3 minutes left, just
2 minutes?
to let you know. 3.
Okay.
3.
Yeah, so you see that the flow, the flow of data is particularly simple. The only mystery to this is that it uses an LLM to do certain things. There are 2 ways of building systems. You can use workflow builders which are online, and you just create nodes, you move nodes around. Or if you know how to code, you can do it with code, with Python typically. I started with the workflow builders, right? Now I'm into code just because I'm a nerd. But you can do so many things with just moving boxes around like this. This is what it looks like. It's literally you move a box. If you've used Zapier before, it's the same. It's literally the same. Just that some nodes are LLMs. Simple as that. It's drag and connect the dots. And because the time is running out, I've been learning about this for the last, 5 or 6 months, deep diving into this. And of all my learning, there are these 6 links that I recommend for you. From the top, it's more conceptual, like understanding what this is about. And then as you go down the list, they become more technical, more like hands-on stuff. But of everything I've been through, and I've been through a lot, these are the top 6 for me. And after the session, we will send you an email with this information. That's it. That's the time, no, Miriam?
You still have 1 minute more if
I
you
have
need.
1 minute. Okay, so let's start again.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. Yeah, sorry, I think I rushed it a bit at the end. My invitation at the end of the day is to start experimenting, right? What I shared with you is what made sense for me, right? But I believe that in order to make a better AI future, we have to get our hands dirty, like Robbie was saying. We need to start playing with it, and then we know what we're talking about. And then you realize that LLMs are actually quite dumb. With after all the fuss that people are doing, they're actually not that smart, right? So it's just to get familiarized. Start experimenting with whatever makes sense for you. This is what makes sense for me. But I encourage you to do so. And it's actually not that difficult to build your own systems. That's my And I have some questions for the breakouts. So how do you feel about this invitation to start experimenting and building AI systems? And if while hearing to this, you got inspired and you thought, oh, I could try this sort of application or this sort of action. These are my questions for the breakouts.